welcome to the very first episode of Sippin' and Sewin'. Today we are going to be starting out with the basics. So when I think about beer and basics, I think about lagers. Some of you might not know the difference between an ale and a lager. Lager is basically what people say when they go to the bar and they're like, "Can I have a beer?" They probably want a lager. A lager that we're going to be drinking today is Stella Artois. This comes from Belgium. It is a basic lager, one of my personal favorites. Yeah, it's very crisp and fresh, and we're going to taste it. We're going to see how it goes. So let me go ahead and pour it, and we'll talk a little bit more about lagers while I'm drinking. So remember, when you pour beer, every time you pour it, you want to keep the glass at a diagonal. Otherwise, all the carbonation, especially in lagers are very carbonated. So all the carbonation is going to make it have a huge head. And although some of us like a lot of head, I don't necessarily like my beer with a lot of head. Lagers are typically going to have a good amount of head on them. See, they're nice and clear, nice and carbonated. It smells, Stella to me, kind of Heineken the same, smell a little bit like skunky. I know this glass, it seems kind of fruity maybe to most people because they're like, "Give me a pint glass." But the reality is you can actually smell it and taste the flavor better in a lot of these glasses. If you look at the Stella glass, it kind of looks similar to this one. So if you want to actually taste the beer and not just be drinking it to just drink it to get drunk, which is fine too, it's usually better to drink them in tulip types of glasses, snifter glasses, things like that, so you actually can get a feel for what the beer smells and tastes like. Cheers! That's delicious. Okay, so since today's sewing project is going to be really easy, I'm going to teach you the basics of how to thread a needle, how to tie a knot, how to do a basic stitch, and then end it with a knot at the end of that. I'm going to focus a little bit more on beer today. So let me take some more. It's hot outside, and there's nothing like a cold, fresh lager when it's hot outside. Anyway, so let's talk about beer. You all know that there are 4 main ingredients in beer. That is the barley, the yeast, the hops, and the water. So those are your 4 main ingredients. The yeast strain that is used to make lagers comes from an area in Bavaria or Northern Europe. And because it's cold there, the yeast that they use there actually ferments better in a colder temperature. So that worked for them, and it works when you're making lagers, because lagers actually need to be made fermented at a colder temperature. So yeah, they've been making them since they came in later than the original ales came about. They didn't find that particular yeast strand until much later, and then it was kind of lost in the mix of actually how to make them until the later, I think, early 1900s, and that happened probably, people think maybe because of the trading that was going in between South America and Europe, because that similar strain to that yeast strain was found in Patagonia, southern Argentina, which is also very, very cold down there. So the hybrid became made with those, and that's kind of where they discovered that it's actually the yeast that makes the lager a lager, and that's fermented in colder temperatures, I don't know, I think 35 to 55 degrees, something around there. And ales are fermented in probably 55 to 75 degree temperatures. Some beers are fermented as high as 90 to 100 degrees, but we'll get to that later. So because the yeast is fermenting at a colder temperature, it actually takes a longer time to ferment. So it's actually a little bit of a harder process, longer process to get the lager rather than the ale. But that makes it come out with a clean, crispy, like that's what we're used to drinking. Most people are used to drinking lagers or pilsners, also a different type of lager. We'll maybe cover pilsner in the next episode. Um, but your typical like Corona, your um, Budweiser, your your typical beer that you drink that's like a nice, crispy, fresh beer, those are usually lagers. So that's what you're thinking about. That's what you want to order when you go to the bar, something cold. You can't drink lagers at any temperature besides cold temperature. Like they don't taste good room temperature. And especially some of the beers like that are made in the domestic chains, which are making like corn, and they're using rice or different fillers like that, those you can definitely not drink cold. As I'm saying, I need to drink this because it's getting warm. Mm. Yum yum for my tummy. All right, so now that you know about these lagers, evenly malted, evenly hopped, super clean, they're not always smooth. Some of them are a little bit more bitter than others, but your basic lager, it's beer. It's what you think of beer. Like The Simpsons when Homer goes to the bar and he's ordering his beer. It's probably a lager. So yeah, so I will make fun of those of you that come to the bar and you ask for an ale and you're like, can I have an ale? Because any other beer that you can think of, as in like Hefeweizen, brown ale, amber ale, IPA, double IPA, stout, imperial stout, I mean like Saison, any other beer you can think of besides a Pilsner is an ale. So now that you know that, don't just come to the bar and ask for an ale. And if you want a beer, you want a lager. All right, now let's move on to the sewing. All right, now I'm feeling nice and a little bit of head change from that beer I've been sipping on. So since we kept it super basic on the beer, let's keep it super basic on the sewing. We're going to start with this needle here, if you all can see that. That is where you're going to thread it, and that is the point. You want to take a spool. I like to stretch it out about as far as my arm. Make sure when you're cutting, you can use paper scissors, but I would just keep a spare of extra scissors that you only use for fabric and thread and things like that, because the scissors, they get dull very quickly. So, and it's hard to cut fabric and thread with dull scissors. So you can use wax. I just do that just to make sure that the point of the thread is pretty even. Sometimes you have little hairs coming out of it. So basically you're going to take this, just look through. See that? You can see me putting it through. Okay, some of the holes are a little smaller or bigger depending on what size needle you have. But you see that? You're just going to pull it all the way through. Now, some people say that they just like to, especially the super old school ways, they just knot one side of the thread. But honestly, I like to knot both unless I'm trying to sew something that I don't want the thread to show very much. Then I just knot one. But I feel like with both thread, it makes the stitching a little bit stronger. Right, so you take the thread from where it's threaded into the needle, and you're going to pull it to where your thumb, the side of your thumb, and put it right directly underneath your thumb and pull it all the way till you get close to the edge. You see that? It's on the side of where your thumb is. Then you're going to take the thread and go the opposite way and turn it 1, 2, 3, or 4 times around and put it back under your thumb. Then you hold on to that turn and pull it all the way down. You can loop it around your fingers to keep it straight, and then it forms a knot. See? Simple as that. All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something today and had fun. I did. My beer's getting warm. I have to hurry up and chug it. Oh, yeah. Loggers need to be drinking cold. But yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave me comments. And let me know what you want to learn how to soak. Let me know what beers you want to learn about, or styles, or whatever. Um, and yeah, now hopefully you know how to thread a needle, tie a knot. I mean, that's the basics. This is a basic beer. Until next time, smell you later.